Broadcasting live, Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, 25,000 watts, WEBY, reaching 4 states along the Gulf Coast and the world via the live streaming internet connection. And we're so glad that you've joined with us today. 2 solid hours every Friday afternoon. We're into the top of our second hour, and as promised, we have IQ Al-Rassooli. IQ Al-Rassooli. It's easier if I just call you IQ, is it not?
Perfect.
Okay, fantastic. And listen, I'm honored that you're with us today. I have heard you on other talk radio programs, and I have been fascinated by the work that you have been doing. Our listening audience is extremely interested in and fascinated by what's happening in Egypt and the Muslim Brotherhood connection and the United States government connection and the Israeli reaction connection, as well as the rest of the Middle East. I could introduce you, but I think you could do a much better job. I know who you are. I know all about you. But what I would like for you to do, IQ, is to introduce yourself to the listening audience. And we have folks all over the United States listening to us and people around the world. But IQ Al-Rassooli is coming to us from across the Atlantic Ocean, and he is live with us, broadcasting live. And he is an absolute virtual expert in the Muslim agenda. IQ, introduce yourself to us. Tell the folks about your book. Tell the folks about your website. Tell the folks about who you are. And then, please, bring us up to date on what's happening in the Middle East, and particularly in Egypt.
Thank you for having me. Ladies and gentlemen, to the very sensitive ears of the politically correct, I invariably give the impression of someone who is very arrogant, bigoted, and maybe even racist. Before any of you jump on your high moral horse, I would like to point out to you that I back up every single statement, conclusion, or remark to the hilt, with quoted references in chapter and verse from the very Arabic scriptural sources, Arabic being my mother tongue, in over 780 chapters and 290 videos on my web and blog that are the result of over 30 years of researching these sordid subjects. My mission is to enlighten humanity about the greatest threat to human civilization in the 21st century, that is, fundamentalist Mohammedan Islam, with or without weapons of mass destruction. Let me share just a few of them with you to shock you into reality. That Allah is most definitely not the same as the God of Jesus, Moses, or Abraham. That Muhammadan Islam is not a religion, but a cult, belief system. That Islam does not mean peace, but submission. That jihad is not a spiritual struggle to commune with God, but eternal war against all human beings, 80% of current humanity. All Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, animists, agnostics, atheists, etc., called Ummat al-Kuffar, meaning nation of infidels, those who do not believe as the Muslims do. That Muhammad's Quran, his Sunnah and Sharia are hate-mongering, war-mongering, misogynist, racist, vile, and hence most definitely ungodly. For those who are in doubt or in shock, I dare each and every one of you to take up any of my challenges worth more than $600,000. I have put my money where my mouth is. All anyone needs to do is Google my name, Al-Rassooli, A-L-R-A-S-S-O-O-L-I, and get enlightened, as well as astounded at the incontestable revelations therein, or read my book, Lifting the Veil, the True Faces of Muhammad and Islam.
Let me break in just a minute, IQ, and because I want to tell our listeners, if you'd like to find his book, you can go on Amazon and you can find it there. It's called Lifting the Veil, as you just heard him say, Lifting the Veil, the True Faces of Muhammad and Islam. And you can go to his website. It's www.al, then the dash or the hyphen, R-A-S-S-O-O-L-I, Al-Rassooli.com. And there you will find over $600,000 of offers that he has made available if he can be proven wrong for what he knows and quotes from the Quran and what the Muslim agenda is. Am I correct, IQ?
Absolutely spot on.
Okay, now
I wanted to add,
yes,
to my Mohammedan Muslim adversaries, I say, please do not keep on threatening me with death, destruction, and the torments of Allah's hell, or insult me. If right is on your side, all you have to do is disprove me. Hence, I would like to tell you very politely, put up or forever. Shut up.
Thank you, IQ. Tell us what's going on in Egypt. You know, we've got our own national security directors telling us that the Muslim Brotherhood is this wonderful organization. But would you please enlighten our listeners?
With pleasure. But, you know, it's amazing how the media and your government, in fact, in particular, is doing things which are really utterly insane.
I know.
The Ripple event that started in Tunisia a few weeks ago, that toppled their government, has turned into a tsunami that is engulfing many Arab and Muslim countries. Although most of those who are demonstrating are genuinely trying to have a democratic government, what will happen will be a repeat performance of what happened in Iran under Ayatollah Khomeini because of Carter. Remarkably, on the 11th of February 1979, 32 years ago to the day.
To the day.
That is exactly what happened. Millions celebrated in the street, hoping for a better future, but have had a worse one that is still lasting.
Yeah.
They overthrew the Shah, and they got the Khomeini clans.
Right.
What the media erroneously call radical or extremist Muslims are actually the fundamentalist followers of Muhammad, the Muslim Brotherhood, who are riding the waves for free and just governments in the Arab world, created almost entirely by ordinary demonstrators. These fundamentalists will take over this tidal wave in the name of Allah, creating instead theocratic governments that will be even more despicable than the governments the people are attempting to overthrow. I predict that the so-called Islamists will take over these movements by stealth, subterfuge, and violence, because they are the best organized as well as the most ruthless. They will also, in a short period of time, literally obliterate all opponents by labeling them un-Islamic. That is, all secular, liberal, moderate men and women, the media, academia, and will infiltrate and take over the police and military apparatus to subjugate and terrorize the people, similar to the Nazi Germans and the Soviet Bolsheviks. What Obama, his administration, and most Western leaders have still not understood, even after 60 or more years dealing with Muslims, is the fact that Islamic Sharia, which every fundamentalist movement in Islam would implement,
right,
is incompatible with democracy. To speak of Islamic democracy is an oxymoron. Sharia is diametrically opposite to democracy.
Thank you.
Sharia loathes, abhors, and is the nemesis of any and all human freedoms. To prove my point, listen to this. There are about 55 Muslim states in the world. Can anyone name more than one that is truly democratic? The Christian Copts in Egypt are 8 to 10% of the Egyptian population. They will be the first to suffer and the most to suffer. They will be subjected to a reign of terror to make them either convert to Islam or leave their country of nativity.
Right.
No one in the West will lift a finger to help them.
Right.
Obama.
IQ, now let me stop right here and reiterate what you just said for our audience, because you just made an unbelievably strong point, and that is this. For those who believe, and we've got some right here on this radio station who have talk radio, who actually believe that what's happening in Egypt is a good thing because they think that somehow out of this democracy is going to come. And what you have just said, as a man born and raised in the Muslim understanding, with Arabic being your mother tongue, and you know the Quran backwards and forwards, you know the theology and the political aim of this group, what you have just said is, name out of 55 Muslim countries in the world, name more than one or two who have any kind of freedom and democracy where Christians and Jews can worship openly without absolute persecution or even threat of death. And what you just said was, in Egypt, there is an 8 to 10% Coptic, which is the Orthodox Christian group in Egypt, 8 to 10%, and you're predicting that they will come under this reign of Muslim terror in the near future. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. By the way, the Copts of Egypt are actually the original descendants of the pharaohs. They are more natives than the Arabized Egyptians. It's so important people understand that. The Copts are the original Egyptians, the descendants of the pharaohs, being persecuted in their own land, like the Christians in my country, Iraq, who are suffering exactly the same, and they are the oldest Christian community in the world. And nobody is lifting a finger to help them in the West.
Unbelievable. IQ, listen, let's do this. I want to take a brief time out right here, IQ. We're going to ask you to hang on, if you will. You're calling from the other side of the Atlantic. We appreciate you calling today. And I know it must be in the evening time where you are, probably late evening. Am I correct?
Yes, I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Okay, you're in Scotland. Thank you so much for calling from Scotland today. We're going to take this next brief time out, and then IQ, Al-Rassooli, will stay on the line with us. This gentleman knows what's going on in the Middle East. He was raised in it. He has studied it. He understands it. He knows. Our Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, doesn't know. The man in the White House, Barack Obama, doesn't know. But IQ knows. We'll be right back with him. You're listening to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups. We'll be right back after this brief time out. All right, you're back. Freedom Friday. Carl Gallups, 25,000 watts, reaching the Gulf Coast and around the world. Our guest this afternoon is IQ Al-Rassooli. And IQ, we're so glad you're with us today. Now, IQ was born in Iraq. His mother tongue is Arabic. He was raised in Islam. He's a former Muslim. He knows the Quran backwards and forwards. He knows and understands the Muslim way of thought, the political agenda, the religious agenda. He knows and understands the Muslim Brotherhood from inside out. He knows and understands what's happening in the Middle East, even though our Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, doesn't have a clue, even though the man in the White House, Barack Obama, I don't think has a clue, but IQ, Al-Rassooli, does. He's calling us from Scotland tonight, and IQ, God bless you. Thank you for being on this show this afternoon, and we welcome you back to Freedom Friday.
Thank you, sir. Let me continue.
Yes.
Dear listeners, I predict, based entirely on historical and theological grounds, that almost each and every one of these upheavals will lead to Islamic theocracies taking over, just like what happened in Iran and in Gaza. The media in the USA and Europe, for whatever reason or agenda, are criminally negligent in not telling the American and European peoples the truth about what the Muslims are actually declaring in their own media in the Arabic language. They are thus very stupidly aiding, abetting, and colluding with the very forces that are attempting to subjugate or destroy us as well as them. The Islamists are and will be totally anti-West. There will be also the very real possibility, even I dare say a certainty, of war breaking out in the Middle East, instigated, orchestrated, and implemented by the Islamists against Israel to start with. As usual with Arabs, they create their own myths and then believe them. As we speak, they feel the time has come for eradicating Israel and its Jews. They are already discussing in their Arabic media of a similar slaughter as by the Nazis, totally ignoring the fact that the Jews of Europe were unarmed civilians who were being exterminated by their very efficient war machine, while Israel has one of the best defense forces in the world. I would like our listeners to comprehend the following very disturbing and shocking figures and realities. Israel, of 8,500 square miles and a Jewish population of 5.5 million, is facing from Hezbollah of Lebanon alone over 50,000 rockets and missiles. This means one missile for each and every 110 civilians. Extrapolating the figures above faced by Israel to the USA show the very dreadful following numbers. Pro rata, the continental USA of 3.8 million square miles would be as if it were targeted by Canada or Mexico with 22,300,000 missiles.
Wow.
And the American people of 308 million as if they were subjected to the threat of 2,790,000 missiles.
Wow.
If these figures are not sobering enough, I do not know what else would shock the people listening.
Yeah.
This is exactly why the USA and the Soviets had mutual assured destruction potentials, so that neither side would even contemplate a war under any logical circumstances. Tragically, when dealing with Islam and Arabs, logic, facts, and reality are not computed. No nation or people on earth facing such odds can fight a conventional war only, based entirely upon these facts, realities, and logic, with 500 million Arabs and Muslims ganging up against 5.5 million Israelis. This war will not remain conventional. Nuclear weapons will be used, and the repercussions of this will affect the whole world.
Yeah.
The greatest tragedy of all is the fact that the USA is at this very crucial period of history being led by a witless, clueless, and spineless administration that is not respected by anyone I can think of.
I agree.
Obama.
Thank you. I agree. And I want to ask you, why do you think our current administration sided with the Muslim Brotherhood? Do you have any idea, IQ?
Only because of Obama's background.
Well,
people keep thinking that Obama is a Christian. Well, I have always asked on radio talk shows very simple questions. If Obama had converted from Islam to Christianity, someone who would have had to induce him into the religion of Christianity. A priest should have done it. A church. When did that happen? Who did it for him and when? How come we don't have any answers?
Right. Well, and you know, right here on Freedom Friday, we've been saying, right here on WEBY, we've been saying for years that more than likely his religious, well, we know his religious upbringing and background was Islam. Now he sat under this radical socialist theology, black preacher up in Chicago, but that's not the conservative biblical Christianity that we know. And so now when we have this man supporting the Muslim Brotherhood over a 30-year ally, then if people don't understand it now, IQ, I don't know what it's going to take for our nation to wake up and realize we have a Muslim sympathizer sitting in the Oval Office. Am I right?
You are absolutely right. The shocking part is that you've got 100 million people who voted him in, and many of them are still supporting him. This is a remarkable one. Obama has been siding with radical Muslims and leftist leaders all over the world against the very interests of the USA and her allies. He has no pride in being an American. Obama has, by his total lack of support of Mubarak, telling him to step down immediately, inflamed the situation even more. Most important of all, he has angered the Saudis and other Arab leaders by his duplicity with Mubarak. No one can trust his administration anymore. In a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, trying to reason with and or tame Muhammad and Islam is exactly the same as attempting to turn Satan into a saint. When war breaks out in the Middle East, I put the blame squarely on Obama and his administration for stabbing both the Egyptian and Israeli leaders in the back. I'm truly sorry that my prognosis is so negative, and I wish to God it will be otherwise. Back to you, sir.
Thank you so much, IQ. Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on Freedom Friday today, and we will have you back in the future because you have a very unique and learned perspective on what's happening in the world. I mean, this is, and you know, of course, IQ, you know that I'm a Christian, and I know the Bible, and I know the prophecies of the Bible, and I understand that most of the prophecies of the Bible center in the Middle East, and there are a lot of prophecies that speak of the very things that are happening right now. I told our audience last week, Isaiah chapter 19, the first 4 verses speak to exactly what we have just watched unfold on our television sets, and verse 4 was fulfilled today on our television sets. And so this is a very prophetic and biblical time in which we live, and thank you so much for verifying so many things that I've been saying for the longest right here, and you've really helped a lot, IQ. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, sir, and God bless you.
Okay, and before we leave, IQ, tell the people again your website and the name of your book, and then we've got to go.
The name of the book is Lifting the Veil, The True Faces of Muhammad and Islam. And all you have to do is Google my name, Al-Rassooli, A-L-R-A-S-S-O-O-L-I, and you'll be shocked. Well, astounded, I hope.
Astounded. We are astounded by all that you've offered us today, IQ. God bless you. Thank you for your addition to Freedom Friday this afternoon, and we will have you back on in the future, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Absolutely. Oh, what a wonderful gentleman. Calling today from Scotland. It's late in the evening there in Scotland. But you know, Freedom Friday, we're reaching the world. We are reaching the world. We're changing the conversation.